And welcome back to another episode of the Double Dunk Podcast. My name is Brenden D. Thanks so much for tuning in today. We're talking strictly Philadelphia Eagles, and we're going to talk about the Eagles' first round. They have drafted Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith. It was a very fun day for Eagles fans and anyone who follows football and is from the Philadelphia area or just likes the team, like Thomas and I from outside of Philadelphia. We're going to talk about it. Thomas, what's going on?
Go Dogs.
Oh man, what a fun night. That was I didn't think it was even going to be close to the excitement level as 2022's draft, but it kind of was there.
Somehow it eclipsed that.
Mhm.
And Howie Roseman made it very clear. He was very adamant about they're not going to be drafting in the top 10 for a lot of years. So they had to come away with this with a unique player, and holy shit, did they do that?
They got two.
They got two. They got one that whenever you're a defensive tackle who is consensus number one in the entire draft, purely based on the field stuff, obviously. This is from way before all the Athens incident things happened. Like Daniel Jeremiah, Bucky Brooks, all of those guys, the well-respected guys that actually know what's going on in the draft community, had Jalen Carter either one or two as their top talent in the draft.
Even PFF rankings I thought were awful this year. Jalen Carter was second.
Yeah, and whenever you have a guy like that, a defensive tackle being rated that high, and everybody raved about how when they were scouting Jordan Davis last year, it was, and Kobe Dean for that matter, it was always Jalen Carter who stood out on tape, and he wasn't even coming out. And they managed to get that guy, and Nolan Smith, who just blew up everybody. He in this pre-draft process here, really showing off everything and more. It's absurd, man.
Before we get going, I saw you pour a glass of wine. What are you drinking?
I'm drinking Kingpin. It's
Hell yeah.
It's a Shiraz. So I'm not really into Spanish wine, but this one is one for the people. It's extremely cheap, and it's really good.
Do you know what kingpin in like North America means? Like a drug kingpin?
No.
You never heard of that before? A kingpin is like a slang. Kingpin's like a slang term for like the leader of like a cartel, or like the leader of a gang. So let's go, baby. Drinking that kingpin.
I guess that would be more appropriate if it was an Italian wine. I feel like, but
yeah.
No, I'm an Italian red wine guy, but sometimes when I come across an occasional good a Spanish wine, I'll dig in.
I drank for my first time last Saturday in like 3 months. I'm trying to lose weight, and I was like hungover for 2 days. I can't drink alcohol anymore, man. But
yeah,
anyway,
it's different. So
yeah, especially when you take some time off. But this summer there will definitely be plenty of drinks. But I'm sure Eagles fans were drinking last night. Let's talk about kind of the process and how we got into it. So the Eagles went into the draft with the 10th overall pick and the 30th overall pick. As the draft was starting to go, like once Devin Witherspoon was taken 5th overall by the Seattle Seahawks, my kind of spidey senses started tingling, going, okay, this is the time. Let's go. Let's get up. Jalen Carter. It's funny. I was watching the clip of our last podcast, and the very last thing you asked me was like, if there's one player, X player you can get from this draft, who is it? I went on my Jalen Carter tangent, and it gave me a good smile this morning. But that's right when Devin Witherspoon went at 5, I was like, okay, the Seahawks, he's not on their board. The Lions then traded out at 6. The Cardinals took Paris Johnson. Like once he hit the Raiders, like got so realistic, and I would have even jumped up with the Raiders if they could to get him, because I didn't think he was going to get past Atlanta and Chicago, and the Raiders went Tyree Wilson and then Bijan Robinson. Like, to only move up with a 4th round pick in 2024 to get Jalen Carter is still like blowing my mind. I don't think the Eagles could have asked for a better outcome.
No, and we were texting back and forth about this and going over the draft value chart there when the Raiders hit the clock, and at that point we were looking at a 3rd round pick potentially next year as well. Next year makes a ton of sense because they always they have like what 4 or 5 fifth-round picks.
5 fifth-round picks next year.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. So obviously a lot of ammo there to move around with, and we were more than happy to do so. But turns out that Howard Roseman read the room perfectly. I was a little bit worried there when the Cardinals traded up. That was going to be for
you eased my mind. I thought they were going Jalen Carter, and then you're like, no, it's offensive lineman. I think it kind of
I was pretty confident, but always, I mean, whenever they're trading up like that, and you have a guy with that talent dropping, it's it kind of makes sense. But yeah, I mean, offensive tackle made a ton of sense there as well. There was a lot of buzz about Paris Johnson being a really sought after offensive tackle in this class, and there was even rumors that the Eagles were among those teams that wanted to maybe move up for him. But in the end, they didn't give away anything. Just to clarify, because I've seen a lot of confusion about why you trade up one spot. So basically, why the Eagles trade up with the Bears, one is that obviously they have a good feeling that they're not going to take him at that point. Otherwise, they wouldn't make that deal. Like Bears wouldn't take a 2024 fourth-round pick to sway them out of a guy that they really like.
Yeah, like if the Bears wanted Jalen Carter, they would have took Jalen Carter.
Exactly. But what you're doing at that point is that you're fortifying it against another team moving up with the Bears in front of you of taking that player. And I think when the Eagles make a move like that, it's because they have the Bears on the phone saying we're receiving calls about other teams wanting to move up here. Like Howie Roseman has talked to each and every one of these teams in the top 10 heading into the into draft night, and he has a price for every one of those spots of what he can give to get to that spot. So I'd imagine that at that point, Bears are calling Howie and saying, we have an offer here. Like, do you want to move up for it? Like, do you want to match that and come up and get your guy? Or do you want to just wait? That way, Bears can get the guy that they want. They know the Eagles want Jalen Carter. They know other teams want Jalen Carter at that point. And I'd imagine that's why they move up for it there. Same with the Steelers moving up ahead of the Jets. Obviously, Patriots know what the Jets want. And they have had talks with the Steelers beforehand. They know that they want Broderick Bunkley there. Not Broderick Bunkley. The Georgia
Eagles legend, baby, Broderick Bunkley. That's a name I haven't heard in a while. That's funny.
Broderick Jones.
Broderick
Jones. And so that all kind of the same there at that point. And that also tells me that Carter would not have free fallen. He would have been taken right after at this point here. So this is not a scenario for the Eagles taking a guy where everybody else has him blacklisted and not on their board. Just to clarify that part of it.
No, you're right. And it made complete sense. Like, why not just give up a 4th-round pick in next year's draft just to 100% confirm that you can go get your guy? Like, you don't know exactly what other teams are offering the Bears. You don't know exactly what the phone calls have been. And then it worked out for the Bears too. It sounds like Darnell Wright was the top guy on their board, so it kind of worked out gravy. Here's a question for you. I've been thinking about this. Do you think Jalen Carter was the top player on the Eagles board?
I want to say yes. Of course, there was all the smoke about Paris Johnson as well.
Yeah,
there.
Will Anderson maybe as well, but like, I don't know. It kind of feels like Jalen Carter was the guy.
Yeah, I don't know about Will Anderson. I mean, we talked about this, of course, before. Like, to me, like Will Anderson has the resume and the stats to back it up. Like, he has more pressures than anybody in the last 5 years or something crazy like that. But if you look at those top guys like the Tyree Wilson, the Will Anderson, the Jalen Carters of the world, those kind of like that bunch of players there, you're not looking at them and saying like one is like a lot better than the other. They're different scheme fit players. And Will Anderson I would have been very happy with a guy like Will Anderson on my defense. I would not say no to that, but I don't think he's a better fit than what a Jalen Carter brings to the Eagles defense. So I would imagine Jalen Carter and having the opportunity of pairing him with a nose tackle, like be it Jordan Davis. Now you have him, but like any nose tackle in there, have Jalen Carter consistently going up against guards and in solo blocks makes more sense for them than to have a guy like Will Anderson when we know that they want the more bendier, long range type of pass rushers in here. We can get to Nolan Smith later a little bit as well. I mean, built exactly like Hassan Reddick. They have a lot of experience with that. They have success with that, and that fits more of what you want there in the wide 9 in a 3-4 defense. So I think Jalen Carter, the scheme fit, made a ton more sense than Will Anderson, Tyree Wilson, and the other guys. So Paris Johnson would be my other competitor for that, but I think ultimately Jalen Carter was the guy.
I agree. Like, I think they got their number 1 player on their board at pick 9, which is like team that never happens. Like, the Eagles did something on Thursday night that rarely ever happens, getting the number 1 player on your board and then adding another top end talent at the end. Like, this is Howie Roseman is running circles right now in the NFL draft.
And just to, addressing the elephant in the room as well. I mean, there's a reason that he was dropping. Like, there's a reason he wasn't picked in the top 5. But I think it's a win-win situation for everybody coming in here. I mean, so we're talking about what was Jalen Carter at that time with the incident in Athens? Was he 19 or 20? Either or.
Yeah, 21. I think he's still 21 years old.
And there's some rumors out there as well. Like, I don't know how much you can dig into that, but I mean that he was a little bit more of a, like, maybe took things a little easy at times on the football side of things. But
the effort thing I don't see in tape.
No, I don't see that.
I don't get where this narrative's coming from. Jalen Carter does not have effort issues on the football.
No, but it just paired up with how he was speaking about Jordan Davis and how he was a role model to him and how he could really, like, there was some, I don't know, I forgot who put it out there. Maybe it was Tony Pauline who put it out there that when that sources from Georgia say whenever Jalen Carter was around Jordan Davis, he was a different kind of human being. Like, he was a different, like, he had another work ethic about him because he was always looking up to Jordan Davis as a friend and as a teammate. So I guess that there was some ties connected there, and if it's actually connected or if it's just like, a little random dot connection there, but either way, like, Carter comes into a situation in a strictly professional team led by Jalen Hurts, who is maybe the most professional, work first, enjoy later type player. A bunch of veteran presences in that defensive locker room there with a Brandon Graham, a Fletcher Cox, who is like, they're not going to take any bullshit, and pair him with Nakobe Dean, Nolan Smith, and
Nakobe Dean, Jordan Davis, Nolan Smith, Jalen Carter.
Yeah, exactly. So pair him with the other 3 guys right there who know him and can work with him as he is transitioning into the NFL. I think it's a perfect situation for him to come into a team that is strictly professional, where he can grow a lot more as a player and as a person.
The only thing I have to say on, like, the off-field incidences is none of us know, like, much about the incident. We only can read what we see in the papers and articles and stuff. The Eagles know 10 times more and 10 times better than we do. If they are okay selecting Jalen Carter, then Eagles fans should be okay selecting Jalen Carter. That's it.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it.
Speculations.
Exactly. And of course there's a risk for this, but I trust, like you said, I trust Jalen Hurts and the veterans to make sure that this risk is minimal and nothing. There's like you said, there could be no bullshit. I think Jason Kelsey, Jalen Hurts, Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham are going to deal with this with someone who's not going to be, like, up to the standards of the culture, whatnot. It's not happening. Jalen Carter steps foot in Philadelphia, he will be on his best behavior, and I fully believe that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, let's quickly just touch on the player himself before we move on. I tried. I was so busy at work today, just so many articles, so much news coming out the score. I tried getting, like, some Jalen Carter tape in. I watched him at the TCU game in the national championship. Woo-hoo. Like, he wasn't even, like, that dominant in that game, and some of his film is unbelievable. I posted a clip that I was watching earlier today. Like, he beat 2 offensive linemen in 2 different pass rush moves in the same play, then forces interception. Guys, Jalen Carter's built different. This guy moves differently. His hand fighting is off the charts. He is, like, the most pristine pass rushing defensive tackle I've seen coming out of college. And a lot of people have the same opinion. Like, I've never seen a guy that's just so ready to attack the quarterback in the NFL from the interior than Jalen Carter. It's like, this is a top level player. And his film stands out. I'm excited to watch more of it. Like, I want to basically watch every single one of his games. That's what the next 3 months are for. But, like, just even from the pre-draft process and just from what I watched today, I'm so excited for this guy in an Eagles jersey, man. He's going to ball out.
Yeah, he's one of those guys who just pop on the tape, and there's no way he should be available at 9 if you're talking about on the field stuff. Like he is a unicorn.
And like there's some production, like he didn't have the sexiest stats, but like analytically he was awesome. Like he had a 16.3 pass rush win rate, that which is the 98th percentile in the nation. Nolan Smith is kind of the same thing. We'll talk about him. Like both these guys just know how to get after the quarterback. And the Georgia defense, like a lot of the way that they run it, that 3-3-5 that they run, it's kind of it's not really like set up for these guys to just pin their ears back. So I think on this defense, you're going to see these guys transform and unlocked. Anything else on the player? Anything else on Jalen Carter?
No, we're going to get into a lot more specifically on him and all the tape grind on him. It's for now, all you need to, like, there's not a player in this draft, maybe Kalisha Cansey, who has a more explosive first step, who can actually who can read an offensive line and what they're trying to do and attack it extremely readily and counter what they're trying to do to them. And who, unlike Kalisha Cansey, has the weight and the power to get himself out of bad positions from time to time. And like you said, he's relentless in his pass rush. He has some snaps against the run where he just beats whoever's in front of him, like at an instant, and
makes guards look silly.
He makes guards look silly. He makes there are plays where he lines up at defensive end, and it just looks natural.
I'm really excited to watch his Tennessee tape. I heard that's like
that's a party.
I haven't fully watched it yet, but we got all time to kind of talk more about the player. But that's the process. Jalen Carter, the Philadelphia Eagle. Before we talk about our good old friend Jonathan Gannon, he's back in the news of the Eagles. I got to let you know about Sweat Tailor, the newest sponsor for the Double Doink podcast. If you're like me, you're tired of trying to find jeans that fit right no matter your build and still look good. Introducing the newest sponsor of the Double Doink podcast, Sweat Tailor, a premium menswear brand that is defining a new kind of casual. I started wearing Sweat Tailor and I'm blown away by how comfortable and affordable the clothes are. And of course, they look great. I love these hoodies. This black hoodie I'm wearing right now is so comfortable. It's 100% worth it, and it was great for springtime, fall time, even the summertime when it gets cold at night. From jackets and pants, joggers and hoodies, Sweat Tailor's designs are made to seamlessly fit into your life. Moving from runway to office to drinks, and drinks to wherever the night takes you. Specializing in casual wear for men, pieces are designed with comfort and versatility in mind for your everyday. Use promo code BDEEG, that is BDEEGST, for 25% off. That's BDEEGST for 25% off your order at sweattailor.com. Okay, so Jonathan Gannon was back in the news in Philly. This was a great introduction to the draft. I had a good laugh. When the tweet from Adam Schefter came on my phone, I was going, what the fuck?
What? What are we doing here?
Oh, man, it was very entertaining. So basically, if you haven't heard now, the Philadelphia Eagles and Arizona Cardinals settled a tampering situation where Jonathan Gannon spoke to the Arizona Cardinals previously before he was allowed to on a phone call. Jonathan Gannon also lied about that in his press conference. So we're getting like serial liar with Jonathan Gannon. Like this guy just lies about everything. So there you go. And then the Eagles, someone tipped off the league to it. So the Cardinals told the Eagles, they settled on it. And the Eagles ended up moving up in the third round with a 5th round pick. So they gained about a 5th round pick in trade value or in draft value, I believe, right?
Yeah, they moved up 30 spots.
Yeah, which is good. Like that was like a perfect.
They basically have the back-to-back picks here at late 3rd, early 4th.
Mm-hmm. So the Eagles are now picking at 62 and 66, right? So second and third.
Yeah, yes, I think it's 66 or 65.
They went from like 94 to 66. I think it was. So good old Jonathan Gannon, buddy. Thanks for the little for the parting gift.
Idiot.
Imagine tampering for Jonathan Gannon. That was the first thing that came to my mind. Like imagine going out of your way to like cause your team draft capital to hire this guy. Like, and again, the lying thing. Like the guy just constantly lying about the press conference, lying about this. He just doesn't seem like a very good dude. I love that clip. It's one of my favorite clips. I always go back to that one for a good laugh. But yeah, so the Eagles now have an extra draft capital. That's how kind of the day kicked off. Okay, let's move on to pick 30. The Philadelphia Eagles stood pat at 30. I was pretty surprised by that. I actually thought they were going to trade out, but once Nolan Smith started to fall from the draft, it became more crystal clear that this is the guy that the Eagles wanted. When it got to like 3 minutes left on the Eagles clock, I was like, oh, this is happening. They're going to take him. I actually like stopped trying to get spoilers too. By that point, every pick was spoiled for me in this draft through like notifications and stuff. So I'm like, you know what? I want like the 30 pick to be actually it. And Eagles took defensive, or I guess edge rusher / linebacker, or whatever you want to call him. Weapon Nolan Smith out of Georgia. This is a guy that Thomas and I were talking about on the podcast previously that we would have taken at 10. I would have been completely fine if they took Nolan.
He was in our okay column, right? I mean,
Yeah.
he was in that column where it was like, yeah, we can definitely see the projection with this guy. We see the like with Jordan Davis, the freakish athleticism that is just paired up with an absolute transferable skill set on the field. And we were going back and forth there from pick 24 and up towards 32 about who would be the sort of like the opponents or competitors to getting Nolan Smith at that point. And we were starting to wonder, like, is something wrong? Like, is there
like I kept saying to you, like, is something going on with the medicals here? Why is he here? The Eagles came out after in the press conference and said he's fully healthy. There's nothing wrong.
Yep.
So I don't get what other teams saw. Like, I don't get why. Like, I know the Cowboys went Mozzie Smith, but it felt like a perfect Cowboys pick, and they passed on him, and there were a couple other teams. So
yeah, I was about to be pissed there when a certain someone.
Do we want to talk about this, Mr. Our boy Dov Kleiman? That made my night as well. I'm not a Dov Kleiman fan. He's like a running joke in our work group chat. We can't stand him because our job is to get news, and this guy's just.
He is an elephant and NFL Network as well. Like, he is at that time, that whole "who is Dov Kleiman" thing that happened in March around the NFL podcast, and all these guys from NFL media, they were making it a running joke as well. Like, yeah.
So if you don't know, Dov Kleiman tweeted out that the Cowboys were drafting Nolan Smith, and it pissed Cowboys fans were furious on Twitter about that. I would be pissed too. Like, imagine seeing like the guy that you thought, like, let's say you liked Nolan Smith and you see your team drafted him, and then it's not him.
Yeah,
like,
they're pissed because it wasn't the pick, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
they wanted him.
So the Cowboy, like, it kind of made sense for the Cowboys, but he kept going and going, and he fell right in the Eagles' lap. And I'm also like pretty confident that he was high up on the Eagles board, like maybe top 15, maybe even better than that. I don't see, like, he was definitely not like the 30th ranked player on the Eagles board or even the 20s. Like, this is, I'm assuming they pretty much ran that pick in when he was there third. There was no thinking about it. They probably fielded some calls, like I said, but it was always going to be him.
Yeah. And a thing that actually kind of stood out to me a little bit when going through that whole process with Cowboys selecting him and pairing him with Micah Parsons kind of made me think about Micah Parsons when thinking about Nolan Smith. And it's always dangerous when you're going about these comparisons, because people are always thinking that you're going to go to the extreme and you're saying that this is the player. And when you're comparing them to them, that you're saying they're the same people, like Kalijah Kancey and Aaron Donald, for example. But if you just look at the way they're built and the way that they're running, the way that they're winning, Nolan Smith is built sort of like he's built sort of like Micah Parsons in the sense that he's built like a linebacker.
I'm pretty sure Micah Parsons, they have like very, very similar like traits. I think Micah Parsons is like 2 inches taller, but other than that,
a little bit taller, like 8 pounds, 8 pounds heavier. I mean, Nolan Smith makes Micah Parsons look unathletic. If you just looking at it at a spider chart, like Nolan blows everybody out the water just from it, like pure. If you're looking at it from a mock draftable, just go by athlete. Nolan Smith is 93rd in broad jump. He's 98th in a vertical jump. He's 94th in the 40-yard dash. He's 88th in 10-yard split. Whereas and he has the same, basically sort of the same size measurables as Micah Parsons. So, I mean, Nolan Smith blows everybody out the water. But if you just look at Nolan and the way that he was being played, we talked about how he had like 100 pass rush snaps with Georgia. So he had around 100. It doesn't matter. The way that he was mostly used, like, he was dropped into coverage a lot. Like, he was basically playing linebacker for them for a lot of the time.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, do you know what a jack linebacker is called? Like the role? That's what his role was, right? At the 3-3-5. I think the word jack I kept seeing used. I think on
they had a lot of different fronts at Georgia. Mm-hmm. Sometimes he would line up in the 2-point stand up jack linebacker in more like a strict 3-4. Sometimes he would play hand the ground in a 4-man front, where he basically just line him in a 5 technique. But they're very similar in the way that they're extremely athletically gifted. They just have a natural feel for shedding blocks, and that's why Nolan Smith is given, despite his size, despite his weight, he destroys blocks. Like, he plays with such leverage in the run game. Like, he can take a tackle and he can flow with him all the way to the outside. He can keep contained. There's no problem. He's not going to get washed. Whenever the entire offensive line is disappearing away from him on a zone scheme, or even on a power scheme, or is getting a guard right up in his face, like, he'll plant his shoulder right in it. He'll stand up that guard, and he'll regain his balance quickly afterwards to make the play on the running back. Happened time and time again in the Georgia defense. And really, that's a testament to, when you're looking at his relative low pass rush snap count, his pass rush win rate is absurd, like 22.8% or something like that.
Led the nation in pass rush win rate at 25.5%.
25.5%. There you go. But when you're just looking at his run defense rating, which is even more impressive, because it wasn't like he wasn't playing a lot of snaps. Brenden, hit me up.
98 percentile in run stop win rate, 14.9%. He had in 2022, he had 69 run defense snaps and only 102 pass rush snaps because he got injured. But like even in 2021, he had 256 pass rush snaps for 7 sacks and 18 hurries. Like, that is very efficient. Like, every pass rush that he had, he made it count. Like, he was so consistently efficient at it. So, and like you said, I've been hearing a lot. I don't want to get specifics where, but I've been hearing a lot about Nolan Smith isn't a run defender. Hell no. This guy is an elite run defender. Watch the film. Like, his ability to close gaps on the defensive line, like his ability to just closing speed and attack run and ball carriers is off the charts. Like, I actually don't think Eagles fans are giving this guy enough credit for how much of an athlete and how much of a good prospect he is. Like, he was the #1 recruit in 2019 in the nation. The best high school football player in the country in 2019 was Nolan Smith, ahead of Kayvon Thibodeau. And he had the analytic stats and everything to back it up at Georgia. Just injuries got in the way, and the way their defense is run. Like, I don't think Eagles fans are giving enough credit for how much of a remarkable pick this is at 30.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And also, I think it's fair to look at him as a player, because when you're introducing him, you don't know exactly what to say. Like, is he an edge rusher? Is he a linebacker? What is he? I mean, I want to say this. You look at Micah Parsons. He plays off-ball linebackers for the Cowboys. He plays in line. He plays 5 technique. He plays wide 9. Nolan Smith can do all of that. If he is at a point early in his career, like rookie year, where you're comfortable with your rotation in Hassan Reddick and Josh Sweat and Brandon Graham, and now you have Jalen Carter in there as well. If you want to rotate in Derek Barnett, you can play Nolan Smith at off-ball linebacker. Mm-hmm. He can play Will. He can play Sam. It doesn't matter. He can play right next to Nakobe Dean. He can come up there on the defensive line. He can go back and off ball. He can play with his athleticism, the speed that he has, and the smoothness in his ability to stay with wide receivers. There's so much tape of him in coverage. It doesn't look weird. It's not Hassan Reddick running around out there. Mm-hmm. Nolan Smith is a legit linebacker who can also rush the passer. He's got the Hassan Reddick type traits that you're looking for in that pass rush. He's got the Micah Parsons type off-ball linebacker traits when he was playing at Penn State. Nolan Smith can be so much more, and it's really a testament. Like, this is a guy you get on the field early. Mm-hmm. It's just a matter of where you need him. You cross-train him at wherever. You see how fast he picks up the playbook. See how cerebral he is. That's, of course, what it's going to come down to. How fast can he pick up the things, and how much can you throw at him? If he picks up this quickly, this guy can play in so many spots. This guy can play slot cornerback.
He has superstar potential. Like, I'm so fired up. I'm almost more fired up about this Nolan Smith pick than the Jalen Carter pick. And I love Jalen Carter's my number one guy. Because I love how they got him at 30. Like, the value is just
it's
crazy.
absurd.
This is not a 30th overall pick. Like, again, when it was happening, I kept saying, what's wrong with the medicals? Why is he falling? Like, and there's nothing like that right now. So it's crazy. Like, he's such a good athlete. It's thinking that the Eagles are going to have potentially 4 starters from the Georgia defense and the best defense of all time. Like, in 2 years, not even 2 years, 1 year, when Fletcher Cox is gone, Brandon Graham potentially gone.
Like, you can pair them up. I mean, Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter, like best buds in college. I mean, like I said, Jordan Davis, role model for Jalen Carter. Nakobe Dean and Nolan Smith, literal best friends. They're the Jalen Hurts and the AJ Brown of the defense. Like they're like this. And if somebody knows anything about hard work and winning, those are the guys. Exactly. Those were the leaders on Georgia's defense.
Nolan, so actually something on Nolan Smith, Channing Tittle, the
sounds legit.
The linebacker from that used to play at here, I have the quote here, one sec. So Channing Tindall, I think he's a linebacker for the Chargers now. I don't know exactly. He was a Georgia linebacker. He said Nolan is the most vocal person in our locker room. He's the energy of the defense. Like, this kid is a leader. He's gonna. I go back to, like, it's such a seamless transition from Fletcher Cox and Brandon Graham era to now the Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith era. Like, you're bringing in the new youth. You're bringing in a whole new wave of kind of excitement to this team, and it's perfect that they got Fletcher Cox and Brandon Graham back on 1-year deals now, and they can depart.
Them the road.
Yeah. Okay.
We're not going to out, Brandon. What would some a little bit? We done on Nolan Smith.
Yeah, you can keep going if there's anything else you want to add on it.
No, I just want to go in the same vein with it, because we're kind of talking a little bit about the the value of these picks and how Nolan Smith at 30. What was your, like, not Eagles necessarily only, but what were some of your favorite picks from the first round, just from a
I want to talk about this, specifically the NFC East, because I think the Deonte Banks pick to the Giants is one of my favorite picks.
Yeah, it's good. It's a good pick.
And I loved Christian Gonzalez at 17 of the Patriots. Hell of a pick.
Yeah,
that leads into the Commanders. What the fuck were they doing taking Emmanuel Forbes at 16? Like, Christian Gonzalez was on the board. I would have paid to see the reaction in the New England Patriots war room when they were like, it's almost like identical to the Jalen
Rager.
Yeah, exactly. The Rager Jefferson pick. Bill Belichick was probably laughing his head off, going, "What the fuck are they doing?" Yeah, like I liked what the Giants did. Deonte Banks is going to be a day one starter for that team. They had no choice. The Eagles, Devonta Smith and AJ Brown lit up that passing and in the run game, and both in 3 games they played. Like, they had to get some sort of secondary help. So I like that pick a lot. Like the Christian Gonzalez pick. A lot of people are ripping the Texans for doing what they did. I get they gave up a lot, and the first round pick is, like, valuable because they could be a bad team next year and it could be, like, in the top 10. So I understand that, but getting Will Anderson and CJ Stroud in one draft class is remarkable work. And
I don't get the criticism at all.
Yeah, like, I like GM's, like, aggressive. Go get exactly. Like, why are you bitching out about a team not being aggressive? Yeah. It could be a lot in the long run, but I respect the hell out of Nick Caserio and that Texans organization for doing what they did.
Yeah, I mean, the Texans haven't really been known as a franchise who are all in on winning. And this is, like, you bring in D'Amico Ryans, you bring in a new culture, you bring in top player at the quarterback position from Ohio State, you're bringing in a top player from Alabama on defense. Like, everybody raving about how much of a leader Will Anderson is. If somebody knows, it's D'Amico Ryans, so I believe he's an Alabama alumni himself. So, I mean, you bring in a new head coach, you have a new face of the offense, you have a new face of the defense on a team that is so talent poor that it's ridiculous. And if they hit on these 2 picks, they've drafted for the next couple of years with those 2 picks alone. So
and they have the Cleveland Browns pick from next year anyway. So they still have a first round pick.
It put the Texans on the map. It gave Texans fans something to cheer for and believe in, and that's what they needed. Screw the picks in 2024. Exactly.
And the CJ Stroud thing made a ton of dough on CJ Stroud, 2nd overall last night, baby. I raked it. I won my draft pool. I won $200 from that with a bunch of buddies. And the CJ Stroud, I bet $70 in the draft. I ended up pulling out $270, so $200 in total. I was banking to my buddies and to everyone that could listen. CJ Stroud is going 2nd overall. Don't buy the smoke. And it happened, and I was pumped about it.
Yeah, you would have been so pissed if they took Will Anderson at 2 and then traded up at 3 for CJ Stroud.
Thinking about it, it kind of makes sense because I think Texans ownership probably like green lighted, like we're taking CJ Stroud at 2. Don't give a fuck what you guys say, because like they watch ownership in the press box watching Davis Mills and Kyle Allen and all the garbage quarterbacks they've had. Like they're probably sick and tired of it. And then getting Will Anderson at 3 was kind of like a negotiation or a handshake between D'Amico Ryans and the coaching staff and ownership saying, you get your guy, we get my guy. We're all happy.
Yeah, and also if they take Will Anderson first, it's going to drive up the price for the 3rd overall pick because teams are going to be calling up for CJ Stroud.
So. That's what we were texting me and my buddies. We were worried about, like, what if they take Will Anderson at 2 and then trade up for CJ Stroud at 3?
No way.
I would have lost that bet. Yeah, exactly. Okay.
Who else you got in the first round?
I like
Deontay Banks, Christian Gonzalez, like what the Texans did.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of any other ones I like.
Miles Murphy for the Bengals, I think was a really good pick there as well.
Yeah, that's good value. I think that was actually like the leading like value chart pick from a lot of people, like from where they got him to the talent level. Do we want to talk about the Lions and what they did?
Oh my
very
goodness. Is it 2023 or what? I mean, what were we drafting linebackers and running backs in the first round for?
Did you see the video of the excitement level from the Lions like draft board room when they got Jahmyr Gibbs acting like he wasn't?
Brad Holmes gave an elbow right in the solar plexus of Dan Campbell. If you watch that video again, look at Dan Campbell. He goes over to him, he gets that elbow in the stomach. He's like, oh yeah, and he goes.
Oh, he had to take a little breather.
Over, and he's like holding his stomach.
Brad Holmes was like broke the table. He was smacking it so hard. I don't like. Look, these two kids could be studs. Like eventually turn into studs. Who knows? Jahmyr Gibbs and Jack Campbell, but like just very weird process. Like the trade
fact that Jam Campbell was the first round pick is out of this world.
It seems like they read other teams wrong. Like I don't think Jahmyr Gibbs was gonna be like. Could he have been there at 18? Probably, right? If they just did that. And the trade, like apparently they said they were going to take him at 6, and then they got a good trade. Like imagine, I don't know. Again, who knows how the players are going to turn out? But to me, taking a running back and a linebacker with how they did it, because the Detroit Lions could have had the Eagles draft if they stood pat. They could have taken Jalen Carter at 6, and then Nolan Smith at 18. If that's what they wanted, they could have had the exact same draft as the Eagles.
It was a PFF writer who tweeted out that the Lions just went into a steakhouse and ordered a cheeseburger.
Yeah, literally. That's a great.
I love that.
Is there any other teams that you'd like in the first round? I'm trying to think of other ones. What do you think about Mozzie Smith to the Cowboys? What do you think about what they did?
Yeah, I think that's an okay pick. I mean,
I don't mind.
I like Mozzie Smith. I think it was the wrong pick just in considering who else was there in Nolan Smith, for example, or Felix Anudika Usama. I think he would be a better pick for the Cowboys as well. I'm glad that Jahmyr Gibbs wasn't there because I thoroughly think that the Cowboys would have bounced on that as well, and I would have not liked the Tony Pollard Jahmyr Gibbs duo running back backfield there. I think the Cowboys were thoroughly fucked because Dalton Kincaid was picked right in front of him. So I think Bills did NFC East fans not named Cowboys a favor, because they would have taken Dalton Kincaid.
Kincaid's a baller too, man. I'm really starting to like him. He's a fun player. That's a good pick for Buffalo.
Yeah, I think actually I was thinking about whether if Cowboys would be taking Michael Myers out of Notre Dame. He's
Michael Mayer.
Michael Mayer, yeah, exactly.
Michael Myers is the serial killer from the Halloween movies.
I don't even know who this is. He's reminding so much of former tight end of the Cowboys, who
Jason Witten.
Exactly. Yeah. Getting wine going here. So I think, that would have made sense. I really thought that they were actually going to continue building on the offense of the Cowboys. But Mozzie Smith, good pick. Deontay Banks, really good pick. Emmanuel, not so much.
No, I don't understand that one. Like, I'm no professional tape watcher, but even I can say Christian Gonzalez is
so small.
Yeah, he's gonna get run over, and his it's like highlight reels and interceptions and like just like the way he can cover isn't that impressive. Like
Deontay Banks and Christian Gonzalez there. I mean,
bad process. Okay, we're not going to talk about day 2 at all because by the time you listen to this, day 2 will probably be over, so it's useless. So Thomas and I will be back on Sunday. The episode will be dropping Sunday night. We're going to introduce you to the entire Eagles draft class, who they pick on day 2, who they pick on day 3, any trades, any of that stuff. Thomas and I will be right there to cover it. So a couple days we'll be back. Really appreciate you tuning in. Thomas, any last words?
Keep killing it, Howie.
Let's go, Howie, baby. Bring us to the promised land. Again, check out our sponsorship, Sweat Taylor and BetterHelp, and we will talk to you later.